The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
We saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime. We know she didn't just walk out of there. She did not leave on her own. Nancy Guthrie is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack, and we're asking the community's help.
Snatched from her bed in the middle of the night, police say that could be what happened to Nancy Guthrie. The urgent search continues this morning. Plus, daughter, Court TV alum, and Today Show anchor Savannah Guthrie taking a step back from her Winter Olympics coverage as her mother remains missing. We have a reporter from Page 6 joining us on the show to talk about their exclusive reporting. And defendant Brendan Banfield convicted of murder. This hour, we are joined live by the prosecution team. And we're going inside of the Alexander brothers sex trafficking case. The attorney for an accuser named Tiffany is speaking out on the program this morning. It's all coming up next for you right here on Opening Statements. Good Tuesday morning to you, and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Julie Grant. Are you ready for some coffee and some court? It's that time where we get you all warmed up and ready to go for the big day ahead on Court TV Live. And before we get there, we've got a huge show planned with tremendous guests. So let's get it started. Grab that cup of coffee. It's time for my opening statement. Criminals know no boundaries. Unfortunately, none of us are ever safe from becoming a victim of a crime. That's just the sad reality of the scary world that we live in. And this morning, sadly, we're seeing this victimization happening to a famous person in our country. One of our incredibly accomplished Court TV alumni, Today Show host Savannah Guthrie. The Pima County Sheriff in Arizona says that Savannah's mother, Nancy Guthrie, appears to have been taken from her home against her will. NBC News is reporting that law enforcement shared with them that they also believe that 84-year-old Nancy was harmed in the process. Now, this is both a heartbreaking and terrifying situation for Savannah Guthrie and for everyone in her family as they're waiting this morning on pins and needles, hoping their beloved mom is rescued. This case is such a sad illustration that nobody is immune when it comes to crime. Crime doesn't care if you're famous, or if you're feeble, or if you are beloved. Criminals are savages, and they have no problem victimizing a beautiful, precious woman like Nancy Guthrie. On behalf of everyone at Court TV, we send our love and our prayers to Savannah and her family, and we hope and we pray that Nancy is rescued and brought back to them safely and unharmed. That's my opening statement this Tuesday. Let me know if you like it. Right now, time for your daily docket.
He stabbed his nephew, Jesse, multiple times in his upper body and threw his arm into his chest. And he stabbed his niece, Sophia, 17 times over her entire 45-pound body.
In New Jersey, we've got the state's case continuing in the Mansion murders trial for defendant Paul Canero. Court's going to resume at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. In Florida, we've got Charlie Adelson's appeal. That's right, oral argument set to be heard at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll keep you posted on that. And in North Carolina, we've got the sentencing for the teenager who killed 5 people in a shooting rampage. Defendant Austin Thompson already pleaded guilty, and now he's facing life in prison. The determination will be whether it's with or without the possibility of parole. That'll be made by the judge. The hearing gets underway at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Right now, we turn to our top story, another bombshell in the case of Savannah Guthrie's missing mom. Police believe 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was abducted from her bed in the middle of the night. According to law enforcement, the 84-year-old was last seen at her home in Arizona on Saturday night, and deputies quickly found suspicious circumstances and declared the property an active crime scene. Investigators believe that Guthrie was taken against her will while she was sleeping.
She is very limited in her mobility, right? We know she didn't just walk out of there. That we know. There are other things at the scene that indicate there was she did not leave on her own.
Investigators say that Guthrie needs critical medication, and even missing just a day's dose could be life-threatening for her. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is offering a $2,500 reward for any information. Let's bring in our investigators and talk about this case. Here with me, Private Investigator Manuel Gomez and Chief Chris Anderson. Good morning to you both. Chief, I'll begin with you. Your thoughts on what may have occurred here?
Well, you know, throughout the entire investigation, they've signaled that this may be a serious crime. I mean, while the signals were very, very subtle, you know, they've been signaling that this could be a very heinous crime, or at least a crime scene, from the onset of this investigation. And you and I both know that when law enforcement are investigating cases like this, they're very quiet with details, and that's to help the case. So, yeah, it is very troubling. I pray for the Guthrie family and their mother's safe return. But this is a very, very troubling case, because now we're having people that are in the spotlight, and their family members that are being victimized, and this is troubling for me.
Yeah, it certainly is, Chief. Savannah put a post up on her Instagram saying, in part, quote, "Thank you for lifting your prayers with ours for our beloved mom, our dearest Nancy, a woman of deep conviction, a good and faithful servant. Raise your prayers with us and believe with us that she will be lifted by them in this very moment. We need you. Bring her home." Manuel Gomez, want to go to you next, please. Your thoughts on what may have occurred here?
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that this case was done for a personal reason, because the police are not talking about a robbery. They're talking about her being abducted at night. Again, why would you abduct an 84-year-old woman? The problem I have with this case is that her putting her mother on TV, and I know she meant it because she was proud and happy of her mom, but put her in danger as well. You know, when you're in the spotlight, you can't put your family in the spotlight, because if you say a comment or an objective or report on a story that someone doesn't like, they'll take it out on your family. And then the problem with this case is that, and in my experience, if you don't find a person like this who's coherent, who's sickly within the first 96 hours, it's a 90% chance you're not going to find them alive after that. So I think on this case, what we need to do is continue humanizing her, showing family pictures, and putting a reward, not $2,500, make it $200,000 or $300,000. Make it to the point where that abductor will want to release her. Because I tell you right now, this is a case of vindictiveness and a personal attack, either on Savannah or one of the family members.
Manuel, you took the words right out of my mouth at the end there. My next question was going to be if you think this has any tie to Savannah, if her mother was targeted because of her for any reason, and you kind of touched on that. Manuel, the floor to follow up.
I believe that she was targeted because of that. And I think she must have covered a news story, maybe on the Iran situation, maybe on the political environment. But we got to remember, there are, and I hate to use this example, but it is an example, there are Luigi Mangionis out there, predators stalking people. And this is one of those cases. Again, do I believe they can find her? Yes, but it's going to go back to the digital footprint of that neighborhood. And the fact that the family disturbed the crime scene and they searched it for an hour before calling the police has made this case even more difficult for the police.
Manuel, thank you for those insights. Let's take a look at Nancy Guthrie's house. We have a photo of it. She lived in a pretty affluent area of Tucson, and this is one of those neighborhoods where you're not up there for no reason. Her home is not in a typical subdivision. It's not gated, we know that. If you take a look at the surrounding homes, even if they had Ring cameras, it'd probably be very hard to see anything given how they're situated near each other. Chief, I want to ask you a follow-up question as to the belief that she was taken against her will. So here it appears that there was a kidnapping. At least that's the belief of law enforcement at this time. What I'm wondering is, why no ransom money? If it is in part, and let's just say for the sake of our analysis, in any way tied to Savannah Guthrie. I'm curious why no request for ransom money. What are your thoughts on that?
So it's not uncommon for the criminal element to wait a day or so before they put out a ransom a note or information about it. And they may already have it in law enforcement and not really revealing that information because they're working leads on the case. And that is some information that us as law enforcement would not put out to the general public because it just adds more layers to the case, if you will. Me being a lead investigator on a case like this, I probably would not put any information out about a ransom because it does more damage than good before we've had enough time to look deeply into everything that has happened. So my answer to your question is that there may have been a ransom already put out to law enforcement, and they're just not releasing it to the public while they're trying to gather as much information as they can to find the suspects who are responsible.
Excellent insights, Chief. Thank you for all of that. According to our affiliate in Phoenix, Scripps News, who is Court TV's parent company, has a local station there, and they are reporting that investigators have Nancy Guthrie's cell phone, that they found it still in her house. They also found her wallet, her medication, her car still there. Manuel, your thoughts on what these items left behind may indicate?
Well, you see, you just nailed it right on the head. All those items, if there was an abduction when you were robbing or something, they would have took some of these things, the wallet, the jewelry. Again, there's no indicators so far of a robbery being occurred here. This items being left and the mother being taken. And remember, where is the value of the mom other than for the family value that, she's the mother? But, what are you really going to get out of an 84-year-old sickly woman? This was done maliciously. This was done to send a message, and this was done out of anger. Now, the problem is, do we think it was because of Savannah or one of the family members? And if I was the investigator in this case, I'll be targeting any of their phone calls using the digital footprints to see if anybody didn't like them or not, and looking into those type of leads as well. But again, this is an isolated area, and this is Arizona. In that area, there's a lot of holes where you could drop somebody. I hope that's not the case, but we need to increase a reward for this woman and not $2,500.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So currently it's at $2,500, Manuel. The sheriff's office set up a tip line. They're asking for people to submit anything they have, any videos, any images. They're saying they're looking at home security footage in the area as well as license plate readers to track down any vehicles that may be suspicious. Chief, your thoughts on that? Should the reward be higher?
Absolutely, it should be higher. I mean, what value can you place on a mother? There's no value. There's no amount. But like I said, the value that they put out for the public may be just $2,500 at the moment. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes. And I wanted to touch on a point that you just made just right prior to with Manuel. Them leaving the jewelry and items that would suggest that this is not a robbery says a lot about this investigation, says a lot about the purpose of this this abduction. To me, because the target was the mother. You can there are indications on the scene that the scene was she was forcibly removed from her house. So the things that they left says a lot about this investigation.
Yeah, Chief. And we haven't heard any word from law enforcement that this was a burglary, that this was, intended to be for theft purposes. We haven't heard anything like that. And so that's an excellent point to end on. I'm so glad we had you both on the program. We'll continue the conversation. Manuel Gomez, Chief Chris Anderson, thank you both kindly. And as Savannah Guthrie's mother remains missing, the Court TV alum and Today Show anchor is now stepping back from Winter Olympic coverage. We'll have that story next. Plus.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of aggravated murder of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield, guilty of using a firearm, guilty of child endangerment.
The Commonwealth's big win in the murder trial of Brendan Banfield. We'll have live reaction from the prosecutors. That's right, they're joining us live coming up.
The Court TV podcast will return.
In criminal case number FE 2024-666, count 1, we, the jury on the issue, join in the case of the Commonwealth of Virginia versus Brendan Robert Banfield defendant, find the defendant guilty of aggravated murder of Joseph Ryan and Christine Banfield as part of the same act or transaction.
Brendan Banfield convicted of murdering his wife and another man in the Au Pair Affair murder trial. Now he's expected to be sentenced to life in prison, which is the mandatory penalty for the aggravated murders that he committed in Virginia, killing his wife, Christine Banfield, and a man that he lured to the home named Joseph Ryan. His sentencing is now set for May the 8th. The jury was out and deliberating for 2 days before finding the former IRS agent guilty on all counts. I've said it before, I'll say it again, a well-tried case on both sides. And this morning, we're so pleased to welcome on the program some very special guests, the prosecuting attorneys on this case. The Commonwealth's attorney, Steve Descano, and the Chief Deputy Commonwealth's attorney, Jenna Sands, and Deputy Commonwealth attorney, Kelly Sprissler. Good morning to you all. Congratulations on a well-tried case. We know this wasn't an easy one. So I know there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears behind the scenes, and so just want to commend you all on a noble fight. Getting this guy behind bars where he belongs. Steve, you're the head of the office. I'm going to start with you. Tell us something that folks at home watching this case, and you know it gripped people all over the world, may not have realized about this prosecution. What is something you could share with us that would really be insightful for our viewers in understanding everything that went into prosecuting Brendan Banfield?
Well, I think, people did see that it was a very complicated case, but I don't really think that people are able to grasp the full reality of how complicated it was. We are talking about just terabytes and terabytes of data, but what we endeavored to do was to streamline that as much as possible. And that's, I think we can attribute a lot of the success to what the trial team to my left and right here were able to simplify, really all killer, no filler, and make sure that it got through to the jury as opposed to just chasing down every single rabbit hole that would have been available to us.
Yes, most definitely. That's where I want to go next. I got to give the advocacy award to you, Jenna Sands. Wow, what a great job you did with him. Talk to us a little bit about the difficulties that you experienced in this prosecution.
Sure. I mean, Steve made the point well. There was just a ton of evidence. We had, a team of 6 detectives. We had half the office at one point in time trying to walk through scenarios with us to understand what that evidence might really mean for us in the case. Putting it all together for trial took months and months. And it was really the dedication of everyone in this office and everyone in the Fairfax County Police Department that helped make it happen.
Jenna, what was it like crossing him? Tell us a little bit about what was going through your mind, what you were thinking, what those moments were really like for you.
I was really interested in what he was going to say. We've been working this case for 3 years, and that man has never said a word. He has never spoken to police. He gave no information to the investigators. I wanted to know what his answers were for all of this evidence. What was his story going to be? How was he going to give us anything that allowed us to think he might even be innocent in this scheme?
Were the affairs, the alleged affairs, I'm going to use that word because I don't think anybody believed that his wife was having affairs, and it's questionable whether he was. Did that throw you at all? Was that a surprise that he dropped on you during his testimony?
No, that information had been floating around for many, many months before the case went to trial. His mother was one of his best advocates, and she had shared that nugget, or at least that theory, with our investigators some time ago. So they were able to run it down. They were able to try to unearth any evidence of prior affairs of Christine Banfield, and they found none. So we knew that that was an absolutely unsupportable story that Mr. Banfield might tell.
Mm-hmm. You know, when he was up there and was sharing that story, it was quite frankly absurd, and it was infuriating to hear. Was there a moment where you were listening to it and you thought, oh, I can see the jury, that you knew the jury wasn't buying it?
I wish I had been able to use my peripheral vision in that way, but I was just locked in on him and really focused on what he was going to come up with next. I wasn't buying it. I assumed that our very bright jury would be able to see through what he was coming up with, but you know, it was one of those moments where I was just using all I could to listen to what he was saying and make sure that he didn't get away with anything.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, you did an outstanding job, Jenna. Kelly Sprisler, I want to go to you. Seating second chair, backing Jenna up with everything. That's an important role. It's you know, the kind of like the unsung hero of the courtroom, where you're getting documents ready and making sure exhibits are lined up. There's a lot you have to be responsible for. Tell us something that you might have picked up on during the trial that maybe our cameras didn't pick up on.
Oh, I think your cameras picked up on pretty much everything. One thing that we could see, I think that the cameras could not see, is the jury coming in and out of the courtroom. And obviously we can't communicate with members of the jury, but we can see them coming in and out. We can see them interacting with one another and getting to their seats and being solicitous of one another. So that was something that the cameras really weren't able to portray, but we could see in the courtroom. And the other thing that the camera doesn't know about and can't see, I think, is just the teamwork that we've all talked about. But we had a tremendous team in the courtroom. We had a tremendous team in our office. We have a tremendous team and partnership with the police department and with the detectives and other folks who have worked on this trial. It was Jenna and me in the courtroom, but and Sylvia, of course, but there were countless numbers of other people who supported us and helped us and encouraged us and carried us through.
Oh, I'm sure. It takes a village for sure. Let's talk about the co-defendant, the au pair. Steve, let me go to you on this one, because you addressed this in the presser after the verdict, said that this isn't a sweetheart deal. Now, for anybody who thinks it may be, that she's going to walk out of jail and go on her merry way, why make this deal to recommend time served for her?
Well, you know, first of all, it is only a recommendation. She does still face up to 10 years in prison, and her fate will be decided in roughly 2.5 weeks. But I think it's really, really important for people to understand that, yes, they may have worked together, but there are different levels of culpability. The way that we saw this is we saw Brendan as the mastermind. You know, Brendan was the mastermind who, in some ways, we believe, brought Juliana along, maybe manipulated her. And at the end of the day, when you're trying to assign culpability and you want to make sure that the heaviest punishment lay upon the person who is most culpable, using a co-defendant in this way, offering a plea agreement in exchange for testimony, is really important, particularly when we have a case like this where there is a kind of a mystery as to what actually happened in that room. We had a lot of unanswered questions, and Juliana was able to come in and fill in those gaps, which we thought would be very, very important for the jury to get above that reasonable doubt threshold.
She was a good witness for you all. The jury believed her with that verdict. Again, a job very well done. We commend you all, and we thank you for waking up early to come on the show with us. Steve Descano, Jenna Sands, and Kelly Sprisler, thank you so much. Get some rest, please. Take good care.
Thanks for having us.
Sure thing. We're going to hit a break, friends. When we come back, here's what's next on Opening Statements.
This is a 84-year-old lady who suffers from some physical ailments, has some physical challenges, is in need of medication, medication that if she doesn't have in 24 hours, it could be fatal.
Savannah Guthrie taking a step back from Winter Olympic coverage. This is the search for her mom continues this morning. Plus, when we come back, we're talking about the Alexander brothers. They're accused of sex trafficking a slew of women, and one of the accuser's attorneys joins us live.
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
Welcome back. This morning, we're shining our spotlight on a Florida woman who has filed a federal rape lawsuit against the Alexander brothers. This right before their sex trafficking trial began. Now, we're going to talk to her attorney about the case this morning. Background for you. The three wealthy brothers, including two of New York's top real estate brokers, are currently on trial for sex trafficking. And the woman whose attorney is coming on the show this morning, her name is Tiffany, and she says that the Alexander twins, Alon and Oren, drugged her inside of a Miami nightclub back in 2016 and then drove her to their brother Oren's apartment, where she claims that all three brothers restrained her and raped her simultaneously and separately. The lawsuit also claims that the brothers recorded the alleged rape and sent videos to the woman's boyfriend. Now, the Alexander brothers have pleaded not guilty in their sex trafficking case that they're on trial for right now. This lawsuit is something separate. Let's talk about it now with Tiffany's attorney and also friend of Court TV Network, Eric Fudali. Eric, good morning. Nice to see you back on the program. So talk to us, please, if you would, about this lawsuit and kind of boil down, if you would, for us, your client's claims against these guys.
Yeah, well, what's so interesting about Tiffany's claims is how sort of closely they mirror a lot of the allegations in the criminal case. You know, I was at the first day of trial for the criminal trial against the Alexander brothers, and I was able to watch the opening statement and one of the first accusers who testified under a pseudonym. And her claims were remarkably similar in sort of the way in which the brothers are accused of doing what they did. So I found that really, interesting, and I praise these women for stepping up, coming forward and testifying in front of what are rows and rows and rows of defense attorneys. Each of the three brothers have their very own defense team, getting up on that stand and testifying against those rows and rows and teams of defense attorneys can be so intimidating. And it was the courage of these women who came forward and accused the Alexander brothers that empowered my client, who had been suffering in silence for almost a decade, to be courageous enough to come forward and even to use her real name in her lawsuit.
Wow. This is serious stuff here. And so it does take a tremendous amount of courage, as you said, Eric, to come forward and come forward so publicly and stand up for one's truth. And one of the other claims that I think was very stunning, very jarring, upsetting in the suit is that she believes that she was given an intoxicated laced drink. Would you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, well, certainly, she, as is described in the complaint, she had this feeling that was new to her, a feeling that she had never felt before. And again, that's the kind of thing you often hear when someone makes the type of accusation or believes that they may have been drugged or taken something, involuntarily. The sensation is different than what you feel when you would normally be drinking alcohol or something along those lines. So again, I found that very interesting. And also one of the accusers, the first accuser who testified in the criminal trial, also testified to something, again, remarkably similar, having a drink and then just feeling very different, having a sensation that just wasn't normal, wasn't familiar to them. And so, it starts to make, sort of jump to conclusions here and try to understand, like, what happened? Why did I drink this drink and suddenly just feel so different and lose my faculties and lose my ability to sort of control what was happening? It's such a scary and haunting thought to hear, to imagine feeling yourself, have a drink, be socializing at a club, take a drink of something, and then have this feeling of being unable to control your faculties, feeling like your legs are you can't really control them. Such a haunting thing to think of. And again, I commend these women who have stepped forward to make these accusations.
Yes. Eric, was your client able to have a rape kit done after the incidents in question?
I can't get into too many of the details of, what my client did, immediately after, what she accuses. What I can say is it was very, very difficult for her. She truly struggled emotionally and physically after the incident that's alleged in the complaint. She suffered immensely. There was a suicide attempt. She really, really, really suffered and had a lot of difficulty deciding what to do, and ultimately, suffered in silence for years and years. And as you know, Julie, that's something, unfortunately, that a lot of women deal with. A lot of alleged victims deal with this concept of just suffering in silence, hoping it'll go away, and never really build up the courage to come forward. And I really, really commend the women who have publicly made these accusations, because it's them that empowered the women, that empowered my client to finally stop suffering in silence and finally just make their accusation, take control of what had been controlling them for so long, take control of it, stand up, make the accusations, and begin the healing process.
Yeah, it's so sad, Eric, because there's this intense shame that comes when you've become a victim of a sex assault. And I hope your client is getting all of the help that she needs to heal and repair any mental, emotional, physical damage that may have allegedly been caused. Tell me, in terms of a trial date and what comes next, we know these guys have their criminal case. Do you have a date for the civil case on the docket yet?
No, we actually don't. So we were just very early in filing. We're still going through the pleading stages, which again, this is a federal lawsuit we filed, and there's multiple defendants that we are alleging are liable for this. So this is going to be a very robust process. It's filed in the Southern District of Miami in federal court. So this is going to be a very, federal court. It takes a very long time to sort of get through this pleading process and the summonses and getting everyone served and doing all of that. Going through the pleadings, presumably perhaps motions to dismiss, that stuff. And then in federal court, the good thing is that once that process is over, it really is sort of streamlined. So we really look forward, and my client really looks forward to litigating this case, proving our allegations in court, which of course at this point are just allegations, but we are very excited and really looking forward to getting into court and really, litigating this case to the fullest extent and fighting for justice for Tiffany.
You know your stuff. For anybody who is unfamiliar with your background, you've been a prosecutor, Eric. You know your way around the courtroom. That is for sure. Tiffany is in excellent hands with you. Thank you so much for coming on Opening Statements. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Julie. Great to see you.
Thanks, Eric. We're going to hit a break, my friends. When we come back, we're going to return to the case in Arizona. The search is ongoing this morning to find Savannah Guthrie's missing mother. And we have a reporter from Page 6 joining us with their exclusive reporting about Savannah's plans regarding the Winter Olympic coverage.
We saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime. We know she didn't just walk out of there. She did not leave on her own. Nancy Guthrie is of great sound mind. This is not a dementia related. She is as sharp as a tack, and we're asking the community's help.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
As I said yesterday, we saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime, and we're asking the community's help.
As investigators continue searching for her mother, Today's Show co-host Savannah Guthrie is set to step away from the screen. Page 6 exclusively reports that the veteran anchor will drop out of hosting the 2026 Winter Olympics opening ceremony coverage. This while the search continues for her mom. The 2026 games are slated to begin on Friday in Italy. 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie was last seen on Saturday night in her home just outside of Tucson, Arizona. She was reported missing by her family on Sunday morning. The sheriff says that Miss Guthrie is not in good physical health, but the family has not reported any cognitive issues. The Today Show anchor released this statement Monday showing appreciation for the players she and the players involved in the investigation and the prayers that her family has received during this very difficult time. She said in part with respect to the prayers, she said, quote, "Raise your prayers with us and believe with us that Nancy will be lifted by them in this very moment. We need you. Bring her home." Savannah Guthrie is reportedly in Tucson, Arizona right now. But what else do we know about Savannah and Nancy Guthrie? Here to talk about this, senior reporter and writer at Page Six, Bernie Zilio. Bernie, good morning to you. Thanks for coming on the program today.
Good morning, Julie. I'm so sorry that we are meeting under these circumstances.
I know. Hearts are breaking all over the country, as you know, the world, really. And everybody is hoping and praying for the safe return of Nancy Guthrie. And in the meantime, I think when everybody saw your story that Page Six put out, you know, about Savannah stepping back from the Olympic coverage, who could blame her, right? Tell me about Page Six's coverage in the story that you exclusively broke, please, Bernie.
Yeah, absolutely. So Savannah was set to host the Olympics opening ceremony in Italy. She was actually set to be there on Friday. But unfortunately, when all of this unfolded, our NBC sources have told us that she is not likely to do that. She is in Arizona as we speak with her family, helping in the search for her mom. She has put out some very faith-filled statements. I can't imagine what she is going through, but she seems to be relying on her faith and working closely with law enforcement.
Yeah, definitely. Very clear that she is a woman of faith, and so is her mom, Nancy. Tell me, Bernie, when you all got the information about the story and her stepping back, you know, of course, viewers get it with this emergency and this awful situation. What was the plan for her in the coverage? Did you find out what exactly her role was going to be?
Yes, actually. So she was set to host the opening ceremony alongside Terry Gannon. It's unclear what that is going to look like now. Perhaps Terry hosts alone. But she was also going to film some Today Show segments with Hoda Kotb while she was there. Hoda was set to remain for the duration of the Olympics, while Savannah was only going to be there for about a week. But it does not look like that's going to be happening. And like you said, who could blame her? I would drop absolutely everything if anything like this happened to a loved one. So that's the current situation. But as you know, prepping for Olympics coverage is demanding. So I'm sure a lot of work has gone into this, but when family matters happen, that comes first.
You're exactly right. Family first, Bernie. I have a clip from the sheriff in Pima County, Arizona, who's been doing a great job keeping everybody up to date as best they can about the situation. Let's take a look back at the most recent statement.
9:45 in the evening, her children left her off. At some time earlier that morning, they got a call from somebody at the church who said, "Hey, your mom's not here." The family went to the house. I'm thinking they spent some time looking for her themselves before they called us, so I'm guessing maybe they got there around 11. So they did some searching and realized we need some help, and they called 911.
Bernie, Page Six, of course, covering this closely. Have you all learned any more information pertaining to the investigation and any other details?
Yeah, absolutely. This is just a gut-wrenching story. Every time I open my phone, there's a new tragic update. But everyone has remained hopeful so far. Essentially, it is believed that the last person who saw Nancy was her daughter, Annie. She went to dinner with her family on Saturday night. She was dropped off at her home in the Catalina Foothills neighborhood of Tucson, Arizona, 9:30, 9:45. Someone from the church the next morning noticed she wasn't there, called the family, and that's kind of how they realized she was missing. Unfortunately, Sheriff Nanos has said that they believe this is either an abduction or a kidnapping case. They believe that there were signs of forced entry. I'm seeing reports that there was blood in the home. It's believed that she was harmed. And like the sheriff said, you know, she has some physical ailments, but she's of sound mind. So it's not believed that she wandered off. This doesn't feel like a dementia-related situation. But everyone is being asked to check their Ring cameras, check any kind of cameras around their properties. When was the last time they might have seen her? Neighbors. It's really a sad, sad situation. We're coming up on 48 hours of not having seen or heard from Nancy. They are investigating her cell phone, which was left behind, to see if there's any clues to any leads. And yeah, we're just monitoring this case really closely.
Oh, my goodness. And as you were speaking, Bernie, it gave me chills when you said coming up on 48 hours. We know that Nancy Guthrie took a medication daily that we understand can be fatal if she misses a dose. Every 24 hours, we understand she has to dose herself with whatever this medication is. That's, I think, one of the hardest things about this to think about, that we know many possibilities. Everybody hopes and prays that she's alive and well, but without that medication, I think that's really, really tough. The Sheriff's Department asking for public information. Are you seeing an influx of people commenting online? And I know you had paid to keep your fingers on the pulse of social media activity, of course, certainly. Are you seeing a lot of interest from the public?
Oh, absolutely. Savannah is beloved. She is amazing at what she does, but I think she's also a really good person. And I think the public is just really rallying behind her. And also, this is just a very shocking, gut-wrenching situation. It's not often that you hear of elderly parents of media personalities being abducted. The whole situation is just so very, very unsettling. And something else I wanted to know was that the sheriff was asked if this could possibly be some sort of ransom situation. And at this time, investigators don't believe that that's the case, which actually, it leaves more questions, I think. But yeah, the public is really rallying around everything and everyone and just trying their best to find Nancy and figure out what happened. And to your point, I think the situation is scary, and it's made even scarier knowing that she needs to take a certain medication that was notably left behind at her house every single day. And like you said, it's 48 hours without that medication. I cannot imagine what is going through this family's minds right now.
Oh, I know. What a dreadful situation to be just on pins and needles. And we're all hoping that Nancy Guthrie is brought home safe and unharmed. Yeah. We saw the reporting from NBC News that law enforcement indicated to them that they believe that she was harmed. We don't know to what degree. Please let us know, Bernie Zilio, if you have any information coming in to Page 6 regarding that. We would love to have you back on the program. And again, as you said, it's unfortunate it's under these circumstances, but you all have done a really great job digging in on this story. Thank you for coming on the show. And friends at home, thank you for being with us for this episode of Opening Statements. If you like the episode, watch it again, share it. We pop them up there on courttv.com for you every morning. Just click on that Shows tab.
That's all for this episode of Opening Statements, my friends. I'm your host, Julie Grant, and it's been great being with you. On this show, I am calling out any pants on fire moments in our big trials and true crime stories, and I want you to come along with me. Opening Statements is live every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern on Court TV. Thank you for downloading this episode. Please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. You can watch past shows anytime you like on courttv.com.